It's great to see the Jewish International Film Festival is back again with 50 films in 6 cities this year, starting October 19th. And it's my great pleasure, as always, to talk to the artistic director of JIFF, Eddie Tamir. Eddie, welcome again to Movie Metropolis.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for listening and being interested.
Always am. Now, again, you've programmed such a fascinating array of films, and perhaps if we start with the opening night film, Bad Shabbos, which sounds like a very amusing opening film.
Yep. So lots of interesting things about this film. The it's the comedy sleeper hit in America. It's taken over 1.5 million there with really no marketing budget, and it's played like for a year in cinemas all over America. And starts off, the setup is a kind of almost stereotypical, archetypal Friday night Jewish dinner. The parents inviting their kids and their kids' partners and their kids' partners' parents. There's some Jewish couples and there's a Jewish and a Catholic about to be married couple. All the normal tropes and all that comedic stuff. And then it spins into a bit of a genre routine with the death of somebody at the Shabbat dinner, and it's a very interesting comedic black comedy.
Okay, sounds great. Bad Sabbath is perhaps an alternative title, but sounds great. Bad Shabbos. Now, I notice you've programmed Scarlett Johansson's film. I think it's her first time as director. I'm not sure. Eleanor the Great.
Yep, it is her directorial debut. It premiered in Cannes this year, and is actually just Sony Classics picked it up, and it's just on release in America now, just literally this week, and it's been doing very well. Lots of things to say about it again. June Squibb is the 91-year-old actress and star of the film, nominated for an Academy Award for Nebraska. And she plays a 94-year-old Jewish woman who's best friends with another Jewish woman, and they live together for 12 years and they become very close. And and it really talks about what happens when you're so close to someone and that person passes away, and how you can almost or actually inherit their life story as if it's your own, and the complications that come along with that. So it's got the comedic stuff that June Squibb just does so well as it's a very moving, heartwarming tearjerker at the same time.
Oh, I look forward to it. It sounds like a really nice film. And Richard Linklater is back with a new film called Blue Moon, and this sounds like an interesting biopic of Lorenz Hart, played by Ethan Hawke.
Mm. Ethan Hawke is so amazing in this film. I'll be very surprised if he's not nominated for an Oscar. It's a complete transformation. He looks like a different size of human being, as well as just a whole different personality than I think he's ever done before. Yep, really, it stars Ethan Hawke and Margaret Qualley, and yep, he plays Lawrence Hart, and that famous duo, which was so groundbreaking in creating the musical genre on Broadway. And obviously the Blue Moon song is part of the legacy of Rodgers and Hart, and it's all very theatrical. Played at the Sardi's restaurant, where all the theatrical types celebrate. Oklahoma is just opened. It's a um, Oscar Hammerstein sort of comes in there, so it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein production. Lawrence Hart's invited. He goes there, hates it, leaves halfway through, and goes to the bar at Sardi's, and everything's played out on that night, and it's pretty fascinating. And the heart of it is literally, not being too funny about the word heart, but the heart of it is that Rogers decided to split up with him because of Lawrence Hart's personal issues and the very difficult challenge to work with him. So he's got that bitterness, but very witty and interesting film.
Look forward to it. Now, just going through the program, of course, we can't talk about everything, and you obviously travel to various film festivals to select Jewish-based films, which is fantastic. There's obviously no shortage of of films to find. One that attracted me is a film called From Darkness to Light, which is about Jerry Lewis's unfinished film, The Day the Clown Cried. This has been in so much in film folklore about Jerry's film, and I'm interested to see this documentary.
Yeah. Um, so I think just to amend what you said, it actually was finished. It is a finished film, but it was never has never been seen.
Ah,
Um, and it's Jerry Lewis created it, wrote, directed, and starred in it, and he became ambivalent about the film. And it is about um, a clown that tries to cheer kids up in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. So this is way before Life is Beautiful and Jojo Rabbit and all the kind of, you know, edgy, provocative storytelling through a Holocaust lens. So the documentary actually does show 30 minutes of footage from the film, which has never been seen before. And then it has some talking heads, obviously, with Jerry Lewis before he passed away, and Jerry Lewis fans, including Mel Brooks and Martin Scorsese, and they talk about the film and about Jerry, and he talks about his ambivalence. A very fascinating document about Jerry Lewis, and really for cinephiles across the world, it's definitely a fascinating watch.
oh, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing that. I noticed there are two films that have sort of Franz Kafka,
Mm,
his persona involved, Glory of Life, and Kafka's Last Trial.
yeah, two interesting films, and obviously the zeitgeist. 100 years since Kafka died, there's been a lot of Kafka stuff out there in the world. Glory of Life is a feature film about the last 12 months of his life when he fell in love, and in amongst his tuberculosis, which was very obviously challenging and depleting, and ultimately was his end. It goes into quite a lyrical, beautiful, romantic period of his life, and definitely recommend the film. The documentary is really fascinating because it follows this. It's called The Last Trial because it's about the rights to Kafka's work. And what happens is his best friend, Max Brod, who was supposed to burn everything because that was Kafka's, last wish. And he wrote to him and said, "Get rid of all my work. I don't want it out there anymore." And Max Brod, in all his wisdom, he kept it all. He ends up in Israel with all the material, and then he slowly publishes that material over time. And then the rights get a bit complicated because Max Brod then somehow these rights move to another family, a family that he was living with, an Israeli woman and her daughter. And then there's this whole legal trial, almost akin to Kafka's book, The Trial, about who should keep these rights and who has the right to the rights, whether it's somewhere, some museum in Austria or Germany, or whether it's this family in Israel. And really, I've never heard of this story before, but it's very interesting.
It is, yeah. Oh, fascinating stuff. Now, I'm so pleased you're screening Shoah, Claude Lanzmann's
Hmm.
epic 9-hour film, in a restored version, and there's a documentary that goes with it as well. All I Had Was Nothingness.
Yeah, so Shoah, I just think it's worth just reminding everyone why it was groundbreaking and why it's considered a masterpiece till today. And it's complicated, but in a way, it's really simple. Uh, Claude Lanzmann decided to do a documentary about one of the greatest horrors of all time by doing a film without any archival footage of the horrors. And he just used talking heads of the persecutors and the victims, and he used the footage of the locations of horror as they were 40 years ago, 40 years after the horrors. So it was just almost pastoral landscapes, eerie, but pastoral. And so that's what's original about it. And we kind of take it for granted today, but many people have copied that approach to dealing with areas of horror and crime. And the other documentary you mentioned, which was premiered in Berlin this year to much acclaim, is called All I Had Was Nothingness. And that is basically using 200 hours of footage, unseen footage from the Shoah archives, that basically turned the camera on Claude Lanzmann himself. So it's like a making of, and it's thrilling, and it's set like a thriller because he has to do all sorts of inventive and dangerous things to obviously get, ex-Nazis to go on camera and be recorded secretly with secret recordings. So the whole drama of the creation of the film is there, and it's a great watch.
Wow, fascinating stuff. I've seen Riefenstahl, which is such an interesting documentary. Was she or wasn't she a Nazi? Is the question that everyone always keeps asking. But I'm so pleased you're programming it.
Well, I think she answers it by the end of the film, don't you?
Uh, with some ambivalent. Look, I'd say the answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, great that you're programming it. And another film I've seen, Once Upon My Mother, which is sort of involved with the songs of Sylvie Vartan, which is such a good mother-son story. Really nice film.
Yeah, one of our big films. And it's in the top two French box office films of the year. And yeah, as you say, it's a mother-son story over decades, and it starts off with in the colourful 60s Paris world with all the vigor and vibrancy of that time, and a Jewish Moroccan family, French family living in Paris, has their sixth child, and the sixth child is born with a club foot, and the mother takes him around to various doctors who come up with cockamamie ideas on how to treat this, and she decides, in true Tiger Mum fashion, she is going to forget all that garbage, and she is going to find a way that this boy will live a normal life, and not only that, will dance, will play sport, and it's about that journey, really loving and beautiful and comedy and dramatic infused journey to that result. And it also includes, as you say, Sylvia Vartan's music, because the son is inspired by Sylvia Vartan, who was the gorgeous songstress of the 50s and 60s in Paris and beyond. And so there's plenty of that music, and she actually has a cameo in the film. So it's got a lot of interesting dimension, and we think it's really moving and loving. And yeah, we're really proud to be screening it.
Excellent. And speaking of France or French films, perhaps Claude Lelouch. I'm so pleased to see a documentary about his wonderful filmmaking.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't really know his Holocaust survivor history, and just how many films he ended up making in France. So many. Obviously, everyone knows A Man and a Woman and the song da 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 da. So kind of ingrained in culture. But he directed that film to much
Yep.
acclaim. which I don't know, did it actually win a Golden Globe, or it was definitely nominated for Best Foreign Film and made a huge impact around the world, and is still seen today. And it really goes into his history, his creative process, and it's a particularly inspiring film for me.
Excellent. Look forward to seeing that. Now, I notice you've got a TV series that you're playing, Zweiflers, which sounds like a really fascinating series.
Yep. So this series won the best TV series in the Cannes series competition. So it's really, incredibly well received. And it's considered and described as the German Succession, in inverted commas. And it's set in amongst a Jewish family who runs a very successful delicatessen that is, it's an iconic place. It's a multi-generational business. And then things start changing and going wrong. And it goes into a very interesting, a bit over the top at times, a very interesting story about family and and commerce.
Excellent. Yeah, that's been programmed during the festival. So have a look at the program, JIFF program for that. I always like to see a Yiddish film, and I'm glad you're screening a restored print of I Have Sinned.
Yeah. So this is one of the first Yiddish talkies made in Poland in the early 30s, and it's a melodrama. And I won't go into the plot too much, but the interesting Australian angle to it is the star of the film is an actress called Rachel Holzer, and Rachel Holzer ends up in Melbourne in the 40s, and she goes on to being the queen of Yiddish theatre in Australia. And she is in many, many live performances, including in where the Kadima Theatre used to be in Carlton, as well as in the Classic Cinemas in Elsternwick. And we actually have a permanent exhibition at the Classic of the Yiddish theatre in Melbourne and beyond. And there's photos of her in our permanent exhibition. So it's a very exciting Australian angle to that film, which seems so far away in Poland in the 1930s.
Uh-huh. Oh, very good. Very good to hear that. Now, speaking of Australian, there's a documentary called Tico, Beyond the Baton,
Mm.
about Tommy Tico, the music director, and um, that sounds like a really interesting documentary.
Yeah, this is the world premiere of the film. Very lucky to have it. And I, again, it's amazing what you don't know about people. I had no idea that he was a Hungarian Holocaust survivor uh, and that he came to Sydney. And he was already, I'm not sure what year he came, somewhere late 40s, early 50s, already as a trained composer and conductor. And then he went on to be this iconic maestro, and they called him the maestro of live bands for TV shows, which was a whole genre in Australia. So I think Bert Newton's show and the Don Lane show and beyond. And then he went on to do all sorts of things, including composing what is our contemporary version of Advanced Australia Fair. So that was his version, which was done for the 2000 Olympics. And in the film, lots of music, comedy, variety scene in Australia, from Julie Anthony to Barry Crocker. They all speak so highly about him and about how inspiring he was and remains for them till today. So yeah, this is a very quirky but interesting film to have.
Ah, look forward to it. Okay. And a film that sounds like a very interesting, has a very interesting plot, Pink Lady, set in the Orthodox community in Jerusalem.
Yep. So Pink Lady is written, directed by Nir Bergman, who's one of the great voices in Israel. He actually is known. One of his biggest claim to fame is that he was the writer and co-creator of In Treatment, the famous TV series that was then translated into English and became a hit worldwide. And Pink Lady is set in a religious Orthodox neighborhood of Israel. And there's a young couple who are married, and the wife discovers that her husband is in a homosexual relationship, and it deals with it in the most beautiful and sensitive and nuanced way. And Neil Bergman won Best Director for the film in Tallinn. And it's a really high quality art house film.
Uh-huh. Okay, very good. Such diverse films and themes and ideas. It's fantastic. And I noticed a film that was very popular with the Israeli Oscars, a film called Come Closer.
Yep. This actually won the Israeli Oscar last year for best film, and it tells a true story of the grief of a young woman whose brother, who she's very close to, dies, and it takes her on a journey of dealing with her grief in amongst all the very colourful music and rave scene in Israel, and takes her to various relationships as part of her journey to heal herself.
Uh-huh. Okay, very good. And a film called Fantasy Life sounds like an interesting story.
Yep. This is a great American independent film, which is again an Australian premiere, like most of the stuff we're playing. And the director is a graduate of the Noam Baumbach School. He was actually has actually been in a few of Noah's films. His name's Matthew Shear, and he's written, directed, and starring in it. And it's a very uh, beautiful film. Or it's obviously Lost in Translation is obviously one of my favorite films, and I'm not going to make an absolute comparison to it, but it is about a platonic relationship between a younger man and an older woman, done in a very beautiful way. And Sam is the main character, and he babysits his psychiatrist's three granddaughters. And the psychiatrist's daughter is a woman who's troubled and is having some marital issues, and it's about their relationships. And it's done in a very kind of warm, comedic, and kind of low noise level, very nuanced. And I really like this film a lot.
Again, sounds great. And I noticed a couple of films about Nazis, Disappearance of Joseph Mengele, and the Eichmann trial.
Yep. So the Disappearance of Joseph Mengele premiered in Cannes this year in main competition, and really powerful, and dealing with all the juicy stuff of perpetrators, and what's their sense of guilt, and what isn't their sense of guilt, and and he obviously survived and lived to an old age, so it explores that journey, and has his son visit him in his hiding place in South America, and deals with that dynamic, and the son tries to get him to I guess come to terms with his actions, and pretty wild and fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And the Eichmann trial?
Yep. So again, there's been quite a bit of stuff on Eichmann. This is a great
Yeah.
documentary, using a lot of archival footage, and dealing with the trial itself, and many of the survivors who give testimony, and really, I guess, gives you a sense of how pivotal this trial was in world history.
Hmm. Okay. Very good. And Elie Wiesel, Soul on Fire, sounds like a really interesting film.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting, I guess, films about big, big important characters in world history, and Elie Wiesel is definitely one of them. His book, his memoir, The Night, which is about his survival and experience in Auschwitz and Buchenwald, It's been on school curriculums all over the world, including Australia. And then, he goes on to be I guess, in that universal humanist voice based on his experiences, becomes one of the leaders in advocating for human rights around the world. And again, really proud to be presenting this film.
Sure. And a film about survival, I suppose, about the October 7th Hamas event, a film called Holding Liat.
Yep. So, Holding It Out Again, it actually won the best documentary in the Berlinale this year, and deals with Liat, who was one of the hostages taken on October 7, and the journey that her family, particularly her father, who's an American citizen, takes in order to do whatever he can to. And she ends up being released after 50 days. He journeys to America and he lobbies, the powers that be to put major influence on the release. And it follows that lobbying. And then we hear from Liat, who was rescued, and the father. And it really talks about her experience and I guess their perspective on the world before and after her release.
Again, fascinating stuff. Look, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a number of other films that I don't have time to talk about. But Eddie, do you have a couple of films that we haven't talked about so far that you'd like to highlight?
Sure, I'll mention a couple. One which is a late announced, not in the printed program, is a film called The Road Between Us. And The Road Between Us is a documentary that premiered, well, it made front page news, pretty controversial situation where the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, invited the film, directed by Barry Average, then disinvited the film, and then re-invited the film, and then it went on to win the People's Choice Award for the Best Documentary just a week ago in Toronto. And it follows, there was a book written called The Gates to Gaza by Amir Tibon, who's an Haaretz journalist, and he and his wife and two daughters were live in Nahal Oz, which is on the Gaza border, and they were part of the kibbutzim that were invaded during the Hamas massacre of October 7. And the story goes on that he is in his house shelter with his wife and daughter, and is in communication with his father, who was a retired general living in Tel Aviv. And it's about the grandfather's journey with the grandmother through all, from Tel Aviv to get up in mad, wild, crazy environment, and how he gets there and ultimately rescues his family.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think the only other one I'd mention is To Be a Jew, which is Frank Lowy in his own words. Frank Lowy, who's currently living in Israel, talks about his life, his personal life, his Jewish identity, and obviously touches on the Westfield experience and building that mega business, and then about his retirement in Israel and his experience in Israel today.
Okay, excellent stuff, and a number of other films screening as part of the Jewish International Film Festival, JIFF, which I think if people go to jiff.com.au, they'll get all the details.
That's right.
And you're in 6 cities this year, which is fantastic, from October 19th to December 21st.
Yep. Very, very happy to be, promoting this shared experience and authentic culture. in this very challenging time in the world and in Australia. And when we're looking for, to try to get our multicultural utopia back on track and keep it nourished with culturally authentic films with a diversity of voice. So everybody's welcome, and look forward to seeing you and everybody at the movies.
Absolutely. A great program and JIFF 2025. And we've been speaking to the artistic director of JIFF, Eddie Tamir. Eddie, thank you so much, as always, for talking with me.
Thanks, Peter. See you soon.
All the best.